Hello. Um, I'm going to talk about a little small part of my life. The first day at the museum, well, actually, the first 3 hours of my first day, and basically three people who changed my life. Um, I sort of started, as growing up, I always thought I was a pretty good artist and, did some nice things. Um, and I really wanted to work at the museum since I was a young child on a field trip. And I didn't care if I was just sweeping floors as long as I would be in this environment, seeing dinosaurs everywhere and, you know, ancient civilizations that people created and artwork. And it was just like, wow, this is heaven, or my slice of heaven. And I don't know if you remember, probably not, but about a year ago, when this pandemic started, I started writing down my life stories for my daughter, and just in case, you never know. And this is one of those stories that I wrote down but never said anything about. And this is about my friend Joe Koch, which is his birthday this weekend. And just because I wanted to talk about him because, we never know how our lives are connected and what influences we have on each other. And this is why I'm doing this. Okay, so my boss, Chuck Fisher, he says, well, why don't you help Joe? He just made a model of Chartreuse Hill. And so this is like the first 10 minutes being there. And they take me in there and they say, oh, this is a model Joe Koch made of Chartreuse Hill. And Chuck Fisher hands me a dental pick and he says, why don't you scrape off the matrix for the model? And I'm thinking, dental pick? These are real fossils? What am I doing holding a dental pick? I've never been, why am I doing this? And I was terrified. And I'm trying to be so careful of not scratching actual fossils that Joe designed, making it look like Chartreuse. It was a somewhat small model to show how fossils look when at Chartreuse Hill. And I'm kind of in awe and terrified at the same time. And I'm there for maybe half hour. And Chuck comes back into the room and he says, oh, can you help Joe with the submarine? And I'm thinking, submarine? Joe Koch. So I go into the hallway and Joe, of course, he's always the most positive guy you've ever seen in your life. And he's explaining to me things that he designed this sub that when the people walk through, it'll give them the sensation that they're walking through a submarine. And they had these old portholes and there's a 7-gill shark that they would be seeing on the other side. And he said, oh, and I want to show you, how we're going to transport this thing because it has to travel and it's going to go in these, cases. And he says, I've numbered everything and lettered them. And here's a little pin. And he just pulled one pin and the thing dropped out. And he said, oh, okay, it fits right here. And this one. And he started disassembling the submarine and showing me how things work. And I'm like, who is this guy? Jeez. And I'm starting to freak out already. I mean, this is like the first hour of being there. And I was working there and he was showing me stuff. And then Chuck comes back into the hallway where Joe's building this submarine. And he says, can you help Serena? That time, her name was Van Doren. Her name is New Z now. But and I'm thinking, sure. So I go into this room. And inside is a painter named Mike Meeker. Now, I don't like to throw out the word genius, but this guy is a genius. I kid you not. And he's done some of the most fantastic artwork you've ever seen. And a lot of my friends I work with are now rich and famous and unbelievable artists still. And you may not know Mike Meeker, but you've seen Mike Meeker. His work is all over the place. He was kind of the art director for Armageddon, where the meteor comes in with Bruce. And he has a list of movies that he art directed and did a lot of stuff with. And they're too numerous to go on. but he did win an Oscar for art direction for The Life of Pi. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with the tiger inside the boat, but if you see the vision, you know that's him. Anyway, so I'm in this room, and Serena designed this, model, a giant model for the young people. So they had scoops, so they could actually be kind of somewhat paleontological, but it doesn't work that way. But so they would scoop up and look for these fossil shark teeth, and then look at them, and then try to find what kind of shark it is and the scientific name on the bottoms. So my job was to get these photographs and cut out the sharks and darken them so that they could go on display around this unit. And I'm looking at Mike Meeker doing this painting for the shark show. That's the most fantastic painting ever. And I can't believe he's able to do this. A very young guy, in his 20s at that time. So I'm kind of doing this, trying to be as careful as possible. Serena comes in. She's young too. She's like in her early 20s, mid 20s. And she's the one that designed this entire show. And she knows everything of what's going on. And I'm thinking, holy cow, who is this girl? I mean, she comes in like a conductor saying, okay, that goes to case whatever. And you have to make this color on this. And she's just telling these people random questions coming up because she knows everything. And she goes and she looks at these photographs, and she's going, okay, that's Carcarcles, and that's Isurus upper. And she's like, and I'm thinking, who the hell is this girl? I mean, how does she have all this knowledge and a designer and I'm just freaking out. Hour two. And she's looking and she can't identify these photographs. And she goes, I'll call Joe. And I'm thinking, Joe? And is that the same guy? So Joe comes out. Oh, he's always, happy and smiling as he comes in. And he starts arranging all these tooth models into the upper lower, and he knows all the names. And I'm thinking, holy cow, I am so over my head. It was like me being in T-ball and being dropped into the major leagues and saying, okay, here's a bat, knock one out of the park. And that's what I felt like. And I was like, okay, I am done. This is like about 11 o'clock or 10:30, 11, well, somewhere around that time. And I thought, oh my God, even though I want to work here in the worst way, this is so much more than I can ever handle in my life. I made the wrong decision. And I was slowly going into the main room. The main room is something you see too. And I grabbed my backpack, and I was just going to slowly just walk out the door and never be heard or seen ever again. And life is so strange. It just so happened Chuck came into the room, and he goes, oh, it's a little early for lunch, don't you think? And then I explained to him, no, I made a big mistake. This is so much more than I could ever think of. And of course, Chuck, if you ever know Chuck, he just laughs and he goes, oh, don't worry about it. It'll get easier. And I thought, oh, I don't know. So I made it through the first day. And I was ready out the door. I was gone. I was never going to be heard from again. And so Chuck had a big influence on my life, because what happened is I ended up staying at the museum for like 14, 15 years, met a lot of incredible people. My artistic abilities grew. It was like the best college in the world. I can't explain. And met a lot of great, they didn't have egos, which was something that's, not known in the world. It was a family, and everybody tried to help everybody else. No matter how talented you thought you were, you always respected everybody's abilities and did positive, reinforcement. It was nirvana for artists. And even though I was a painter and an illustrator, I could not compete with Meeker, and ended up being a model maker and a sculptor because I had to find a direction to go, and became that. Now, the third person that I want to talk about, and I put these on a poster on a wall in case something happened, and just little stories for my daughter in case, you know, that was an unsure time. And the other one is Lee Murphy. Everybody loved Lee Murphy. He just a quick wit. And both Joe and Lee are authors of great books. They're like oak trees with roots you cannot believe. You know, Lee is a great writer, model maker, you know, designer in his own right. But he is another person who it's changed my life completely. Because at the end of the Shark Show, it was the splitting of a baby. And it was Chuck saying, I have to let one of you go. And I knew everybody loved Lee. And I wanted to stay, but I was thinking, you know, this is the end of the road for me. And being the person who Lee is, he threw himself on the sword. And he said he's working on a big model of of a shark, and I'll leave. And he changed my life completely. But these are the kind of people I was working with. But I just wanted to let Joe know that you were such a big influence and an inspiration in my life. And I guess this is my birthday present to you, because I'm no longer in the area. And just let you know how many lives you've influenced. I have no idea, but you've influenced my life to degrees you'll never, ever realize. Anyway, that's it. Happy birthday, Joe.